guys, welcome to the Legacy Wealth Show. I got my good friend Chris Walsh here. Chris, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
Yeah, buddy.
Always a pleasure.
So Chris is from the Cleveland area as well, and he's pretty heavy into real estate, has about, 100 units today?
Yep.
Just got started
right at
18 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And 18 months ago, Chris and I had known each other for a couple of years now, and Chris owns several GolfTec, so the coaching and training facilities for golfers in the Cleveland area. And we had some really good conversations early on when I'd come in for lessons, just talking about what I had going on and how the portfolio was growing. And eventually he's like, man, something's going on here, right? So why don't you, this show's all about, making money, keeping money, and then making your money make more money.
Sure.
And so why don't you give, high-level overview on how you got started, or where you come from,
Yep.
right? As a professional golfer, and then how that transitioned into you being an entrepreneur, and then how that's transitioned into real estate.
Yep. Yeah, so grew up in Cleveland, West Side. Went to Ignatius, Bowling Green. After college, I want to go play professional golf.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I want to go play on the PGA Tour. I want to get rich. I want to live this amazing life.
Yeah.
That unfortunately didn't happen. My dad got sick, so I moved back home to Cleveland. And I got involved in a business that I invested in a long time ago, GolfTec. So I was a passive investor, and so I started teaching, right? Really liked the business. Our business is doing really well, but it's very transactional, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even though I get a distribution at the end of the year, if I'm not teaching a lot of golf lessons, I'm not getting paid. Mm. So as I start hanging out with people like you, and I go to these masterminds, and I read a lot of books and things like that, if you ever want to get to a certain place, you can only trade your time for money for so long,
Mm-hmm.
right? So as I started I've been reading real estate books for 10 years, and really what happened is I went to your mastermind about 18 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
That just really changed my thinking as far as kind of leveling up and stop trading your time for money.
Yeah.
Start buying assets to pay you, and I mean, here I am now.
Real estate's an equalizer of dummies. You come in, you see 15 other guys, you're like, dude,
Yeah.
if these guys can do it, I know I can do it, right?
Barely got by in school just because it wasn't interesting.
Yeah.
If you're interested in something that's easy to learn something, I got
Mm-hmm.
really interested in real estate, just kind of like I got obsessed with golf. I'm kind of on that same level, and being around people like you and some of these other guys, seeing people do things. It's not, you're obviously a smart guy, but you're not like, I'm not sitting here with Einstein like,
Right.
I can't understand these concepts, right?
Yep, absolutely. So what did that look like? So at the time, 18 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
you're sitting in a round table, a couple other entrepreneurs, some in real estate, some not in
Yep.
real estate, and we're talking about different concepts. You already obviously had an interest in real estate.
Sure.
And so you see kind of a big picture. At that time, you had a duplex. You lived in one side. You're
Yep.
kind of house hacking,
House
right?
hack, yep.
So you're living in one side, renting out the other side, a cool, trendy area of Cleveland. From there, what did it look like? Like, what was the next investment? Like, what was the progression
Yep.
on that? And like, what were some things that you wanted to do, or maybe were not ready for? Like, what did that look like?
I don't think I was ready for anything. To be
Yeah, I
honest
know,
with
right?
you.
Otherwise, you wouldn't have done it.
No.
Like, I wouldn't have gotten it. If you would have told me the things that I'd have to go
Yeah,
through to
absolutely.
get to the place where I am
Sure.
today, I
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have done it,
Absolutely.
because I would have said, absolutely not. I'm not going through that much pain and adversity and BS. And, oh, man, there's so much of it,
Yeah.
right? But when you're in it, you're like, hey, if I could just punch through this, right? It's just it's a level of solving problems, and every problem you solve, a little bit better you get,
Yeah.
and then that problem doesn't happen to you again, right? Once you
hope.
if you learn from that lesson.
Sure.
So what did the next investment look like?
Yep.
For you, and then tell me how you were able to like kind of scale up, dude. 100 units in 18 months is a lot of deal flow. So
Yeah, it's been pretty good. So the next one was it was a duplex in Tremont. I bought it off a friend of mine. I bought it for $55,000. I had no idea about private money. I had no idea about hard money. I had no idea how I was going to raise the money to buy it. I just said, okay, I'll buy it off you. And I actually did the rehab on a credit card. I got 2 0% credit cards, and I did the rehab on there. They were like 15, 18 months. And I think like right before that time period of the 0%, I ran into you and Steve Morris, and I started figuring out like, okay, I can refinance these things. I can use other people's money, and actually refinance it. I pulled a bunch of cash out of it when I refinanced it, which was huge. I paid off all these credit cards at a nice chunk of cash for what was a lot of money for me at the time. And then I started getting plugged into private money, hard money, joined Steve Morris's coaching. I started going to more year masterminds and figured out that, you know, just trying to do it myself with my own money was stupid, it was slow, and it's really risky.
Yeah.
Then I started figuring out about wholesalers.
And bro, it doesn't matter how much money you have. Eventually, you're going to run out if you're doing the deals that
It's
you're
too
doing,
slow.
right?
Yeah.
That any of us are doing, right?
Unless you're
and then
a
you're
billionaire.
right, and you're putting yourself on some sort of schedule that, hey, if I can save up enough money to do the next deal,
crazy.
it's like all you're doing is delaying 18 months, 24 months, 36 months for your success.
Yeah.
Why would you ever do that? You know, there's better ways. There's better ways to go about doing that. Better resources out there. So
at the time of that right before I went to that mastermind, I was house hacking. I'm like, all right, I'm going to buy 1 duplex a year. 10 years, I'm going to have 20 duplexes or 20 units. I'm going to have enough passive income where I can kind of do what I want. I'm just going to keep teaching golf. And once I got plugged into that, I'm like, let's just hit the gas and go.
Dude,
how fast can I go?
I'll have 20 units in 10 years. You picked up 100 units in 18 months.
Yeah.
So access to deals, access to money. You're doing some pretty cool stuff. So now you got 100 units, right?
Yep.
And you have traditional renters and tenants in place, but then you're also doing some cool stuff on the Airbnb side, right? In order to juice some of those rents.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about what that looks like.
So we bought this house in Ohio City from actually one of your students, Nick, and we renovated it, and we're like, we went to refinance it. We're about to refinance it right now. It's taken a long time. We're going to pull a pretty good chunk of cash, but the rents to the amount of rent we were going to get to the amount of debt service, we're like, this is kind of tight. Maybe we'll sell it. And then we're like, my business partner and I, Brian, were like, let's try to Airbnb it. I don't know, maybe it'll work. And that first month, we grossed $4,400 a month in rent.
What would it have rented for with a normal annual
16
lease?
max, 1,600.
So you more than doubled. You almost
almost
3x.
Almost 2.5 times, yeah. And so we're like, okay, we didn't know Airbnb was really that. I mean, we knew it was a thing. We'd never really done much with it.
Is this a pretty trendy area?
Yeah, it's in Ohio City. It's a great area. And we happen to have a bunch of other units in that area that are being renovated right now. And so he said, okay, this works. And I bought another place across from the Christmas Story house from the famous movie. That started working. And then we're just like, all right, let's try to Airbnb stuff in good areas.
Yeah.
So the gross rents are much higher.
How's the management side of it?
It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
It's
It's you guys managing right now, right?
We're not managing. We actually just hired a manager. We've got like 3 or 4 cleaning crews. So it's not a pain in the ass for us, but it took a while we have 10 to 12 of them. We're going to have another 5. Once we found the right people in place, it's been great. We don't do a whole lot with it anymore. And to your point, you say this all the time, hire A players. We just hired a property manager she is awesome. We couldn't have scaled to 12 Airbnbs in the last, 4 months without her.
Yeah.
So.
And that's powerful, dude. And you think about how much more you're making in rents. Even if you had to pay somebody a salary, dude, if you're making an extra $3,000 just from one property, that covers their salary or majority of their salary, right? And you can compensate them in a way that then they can manage 15 different Airbnbs and leverage it in that regard. So what's been your biggest learning curve as you're growing your business and as you're going through raising private money and finding deal flow and trying out new strategies for juicing the rents? What's been the biggest hurdle that you've faced, I guess, over the course of the past 12 months?
I think probably it was, we've talked about this, is hiring really good people.
Yeah.
Not necessarily being so concerned about what it's going to cost, but what it wouldn't cost to have the right person in place. And then every time I come to one of these masterminds, I'm like, God, I'm thinking too small. I got to think bigger. I got to surround myself with the right people more often. And we flew on a private jet today. It was awesome. I've never done that before. I want to fly on a private jet every time I fly.
Every time.
Right? So I got to start hanging out
Spoiled
with people.
forever.
Yeah, that flying private jets, or I want to, whatever you want to do. You gotta. I want to try to be the dumbest, poorest person in the room, and if I'm in that room, I'm in a good spot, right? Because you're not in a room with, if you're the smartest, wealthiest, whatever guy, you're not probably learning a whole lot.
Yep.
So just being around the right people, thinking a little bit bigger, and then it's a lot easier to learn from your mistake than it is from my mistake. I can move faster. You're learning from guys that are way ahead of you. just kind of keep piggybacking off more successful people.
100%, man. I see a lot of people who they're not like, you're going to learn one way or another,
Sure.
right? You're going to either learn by losing all of your own money in a different deal or in a different transaction and going through that pain and suffering yourself, or
No doubt.
you could pay for the education, get there faster, right?
Yeah.
Not lose nearly. It's not going to cost you nearly as much. And whether that's going out to an educational event, that's plugging into a mastermind, that's paying a mentor for a few hours of their time, whatever that looks like. Find somebody who's going and at the place where you want to be, that you're going to,
100%.
and just compensate. Like sit down with them, pay them for their time. Don't just try to pick their brain and suck a bunch of information out of them without offering value in return, right? And that could be compensation. That could be working for free. That could be figuring out something to connect with that person, to gain the knowledge that they have. Because I've been doing this for 11 years, right? You were able to fast track your success. It took me, probably 6 or 7 years to get to my first 100 units,
Sure.
right? You were able to do it in 18 months because you surrounded
Plugged
yourself
in,
with people
absolutely.
who had already gone through those trials and tribulations and were able to offer insight on how to raise money, where to
Sure.
find off-market direct-to-seller deals, and you've done a lot of stuff on your own, obviously, by taking that stuff,
Sure.
internalizing it, reflecting on it, putting it to action, and not wasting the information either.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of people who still go out and get the education, but they don't actually internalize it, right? They don't actually put it to work. So it's powerful stuff, man. Tell me about what your goals are over the course of the next, let's say, 5 years. Where do you want to be?
So every time I write my goals down every day, and every time I come to something like this, they always change because I'm like, okay, I'm not thinking big enough. So I like to follow Grant Cardone on the 10X. I'd like to get 100 Airbnbs in the next year, and I'd like to have 1,000 long-term units. Now, I don't know what that looks like. I usually just try to write it down, and then hopefully things happen as you surround yourself with the right people and the right actions daily. I'd like to have just complete freedom of my time, my health, and my money within the next 12 to 15 months. And then we talked a little bit about this there. We've got this like really good streams of income coming in that are stabilized. Then you can kind of take some risk on some other type of businesses that are interesting.
Yep.
I want to travel a little bit more, and I want to surround myself with people that just to continue to level up, and then I want to bring people up with me that want to come up.
I love it, man.
Provide opportunities for people.
What would you have told yourself 24 months ago or 10 years ago that you know now that you wish you would have known earlier in your real estate career and just your entrepreneurial career?
Yeah, I wasn't really. So I played golf for a living for a long time, and I didn't really think that I was doing it, but I was always like looking for people that were really good. I was always trying to find the best player and just kind of tag along. And I think that's probably been the biggest growth is surrounding myself with people that are doing big things. When I went to your first mastermind, I remember you called me like, when I come this, I got an extra spot. It was $1,000, and I was like, oh my god! Like I was terrified of that $1,000. Right? It seemed like so much money, and at the time I couldn't. I was like, oh my God, how am I getting $1,000? Like that seems ridiculous to me, just because I'd never been around that. And now I think like, oh my God, every one of these I'm like, yes, I want to go to it.
I can't not spend $1,000.
Yeah.
You know how much information I'm going to miss out on,
Oh my
right? The
God.
opportunities I'll lose out on, the connections that I could have made that would have fast-tracked me even more, that could have bought private
Crazy.
money, that
Yeah.
could have gained relationships with, and
Sometimes it's just like one thing that someone like you say or Mark Evans says, and I'm like, and I can take that and immediately apply it to something that's like, just starts to scale quickly. So those are just so powerful.
dude, these things are always a return on investment, right?
No doubt.
It's some people look at it as a cost. It's not a cost.
I
'Cause
would
if you
agree.
come out here, you create the relationships, it is an actual return on investment. You will get 10 times or probably 100 times, depending on the different event. And one takeaway of income that you'll either make
Sure.
or money that you'll save from not screwing up,
And there's usually a lot more than one, but I'm just saying like even one little
Right.
thing is probably worth it because there's
Absolutely.
and that just being around people, it's fun, and just I think the long-term relationships that you build ends up being something big. We're all starting to do things together, and it's been good.
Yeah, I mean, hey, dude, it's friends with a common future versus friends with a common past. Like we're going to be able to go on these trips and do lifestyle activities and travel the world together because we'll have time freedom and money freedom.
Yep.
And everything that we want that a lot of other people, they're stuck inside their cell of a job or financial stress or whatever because they didn't go out and buy assets, right? Because they bought liabilities instead of assets, because they didn't know how to turn those liabilities into assets, because they didn't know how to get their money working for them in a way that generates more revenue, more income to them. And it's cool to hang out together, man. It's cool to see your growth. Super proud of you, brother.
Thank you.
And I appreciate all the value
Absolutely.
and insight that you shared here. So, Chris Walsh, what's the best way that people can connect with you, man?
You can look me up on Facebook and Instagram. It's chris.walsh.cle, and trying to get to 100 million followers this year. It's not happening.
We'll make it happen. This will help with a few at least.
There you go.
So connect with Chris. Great guy. Always value driven. Always a giver. So appreciate you being here, brother.
Yeah, thanks
Hope
for
you guys
having
got
me.
a ton of value out of that. Took a lot of notes. I know I took a ton of notes and stuff too. I'm going to go back and watch this and take a bunch of notes because there were some really, really good nuggets in there. So hope you guys got a ton out of that. I appreciate you. If there's anything that I can do, please connect with me. Hit me up, and happy to help you, take your life and business to the next level too. So until next time, see you on the Legacy Wealth Show.